Hello, this is Sumanto Day and welcome to my lessons, SD lessons. Today I have taken this topic right from chapter 1 of life science or biology, CBSE syllabus class 10. Now, those who are in other boards or ICSE or other boards, you also have the same thing, only the chapters are numbered differently and the layout may be different, the title may be different, but the content is the same everywhere. So, there's no need to worry for that, but I am going as per the chapter given mentioned in CBSE life processes. Now it's a lengthy chapter, so I will be breaking this chapter into parts like life processes nutrition. So this is named as life processes nutrition. In fact, I will not be able to complete the entire nutrition in this post. It will be quite lengthy then. So you will follow me. Life processes nutrition in plants, life processes nutrition in animals, in amoeba, in human being, and so on. So you can follow in that manner. It will be easy for you children. So that's a little bit of guide. Now I'll start the chapter. Look at here. Carry on. Look at this. Life processes. Now look at this. Life processes, living things. We have to understand. Means we have read it in the lower classes that what are living and non-living things. But when you are given something like this, suppose if you are given a stone and a small thing, something like a virus and one ant, let's see whether it defines very clearly or not. So this is the ant. Okay, now say for an example, let's see the first point, move. Now the stone is not going to move, the virus. Now here is the question, does this virus move on its own? It is carried by air or water, but it doesn't move on its own. So it's not showing any living character there. What about the ant? Ant moves. Let's see the next one. Need food, air and water. Stone doesn't require any food, air or water. Viruses also don't require food, air and water. So there also a virus does not, it is not considered as a living in that case. Water, and then the ant, definitely it requires food, air and water. What about growth? Grow. Stone never grows, but sometimes suppose something deposits on top of a stone in the outermost layer, then you can think that it is growing, but it doesn't. It's no metabolism taking place, it's just something getting deposited on top of that. So it can be considered, but it's not growth. What about a virus? No, it doesn't grow. What about the ant? Yes, definitely the ant, as it comes out from the egg, then it grows in size. Next one is respond. Stone, if you put it on a hot pan, it will not respond, it will not it may due to sometimes due to heat certain things jumps, but that response, that is not considered as a response. It due to some physical conditions, it happens like that, it is not response. Viruses also, they don't respond, so it will not be considered as living. And yes, it responds. Anything hot object, it will be running away from it. Respire. Stone never respires, doesn't require breathing or oxygen. Viruses can be crystallized and kept for thousands of years. Nothing will happen. It doesn't require oxygen to survive and requires oxygen to survive. So respires, this one. Next one is excrete, means to the waste materials, removal of the waste materials. Now a stone never forms any waste material, so no question of excreting something. Viruses don't excrete, don't, so it is not to be considered as living. An ant, it excretes, it gives out excretory products. It passes very little because human beings, since it is big, we can and see and know it well, but ants also give little bit of excrete. Okay, it excretes. Next one is reproduction. A stone will never give birth to or lay eggs. Viruses, here is a big question here. Do they reproduce? They don't. But you have to understand in details, you understand in class 11 and 12 that how do they multiply. A virus enters another host cell and then it hijacks it and orders the host cell after hijacking to make its body parts or body material and then to assemble those and make something like it, like several viruses. So but that will never be considered as reproduction, so we'll not consider as a living thing. But then it's very interesting to know how viruses, they multiply after hijacking the host cell. But then reproduction in ant, yes, definitely it reproduces. Ants lay eggs and reproduces. So at times it becomes difficult for us to understand whether it is really living or non-living. For the example of viruses, that's why I have taken this virus, because it is confusing and it multiplies. It doesn't require food. It doesn't move. It doesn't respond. But then it shows some features of living and some features of non-living. It's a unique thing. A very small organism can be called organism, cannot be called organism also. So it is something in between living and non-living. I love this virus. You learn it later in higher classes. So after knowing what is living and non-living, we now understand what are life processes. Means to be living, any organism to be living, it has to get certain things, it has to do certain things to obtain energy. And these are the life processes. It carries out various activities, biochemical reactions within it. So they are called the life processes. We will see it one by one. But the first thing, the first life process which I will discuss will be the nutrition. Now, nutrition doesn't mean just getting food, just eating food or just obtaining food. That doesn't mean nutrition. So, let's understand what is nutrient first. Now, nutrient is the substance which is eaten or taken and that gives energy, that will give energy, that will help for other life processes after getting the energy to conduct all the life processes and remain alive. So that substance is called nutrient. And the process of obtaining the nutrient and to utilize it, after obtaining it has to be utilized in the cells in the body, and then energy will be released, or with that energy other life processes like reproduction, excretion, digestion, circulation, transportation, all that life processes can be done with energy. Without energy it is not possible. So the first thing is nutrition, means the first thing which we require, any living thing requires, is food. It has to obtain food. Now how can it obtain the food? So we are coming to the next point, that is modes of nutrition. How? The green plants do not require to take any food from outside. It can make its own food. Just it requires the inorganic substances, carbon dioxide and water. It just requires carbon dioxide and water, carbon dioxide from the air, water from the soil, and it has chlorophyll in its leaves and traps the sun's energy, and then it makes its own food. So modes of nutrition is autotrophic for green plants. All green plants autotrophic mode of nutrition, means it makes its own food. And the rest that cannot make its own food, they are all heterotrophic modes of nutrition. Hetero means others. Trophy means food or nutrition. So it obtains or procures the food from others, hetero. So you see modes of nutrition two, auto and hetero. Now in hetero I have made it an arrow here. You see one, two, three. Three types of hetero. What are they? Saprophytic. Saprophytic. You might have seen the mushrooms or many other organisms, yeast microorganism. Mushrooms are sometimes, some mushrooms are quite big and very seen and very edible and nice, you see. Now, saprophytic, they grow on dead and decaying wood, rotten things, organic things, cow dung, organic matter. You will find in mainly in hay, rotten wood. So, saprophytic means they grow on dead and decaying organisms. From dead and decaying organisms, it procures the food, that is saprophytic. And what about parasitic? It gets the food, ready-made food. It gets ready-made food from living organisms that we call host. So it sucks or it remains in it. Like mosquito, you know, it sucks our blood. So it's a parasite. It gets the food from us, the blood, ready-made blood from us. So parasitic, they get ready-made food. And from where they are called host. Holozoic. Holozoic, they obtain solid food. They, zoic means like animals, so they swallow like animals, they ingest like animals. So eating like animals, like it gets from any other thing, it ingests or puts its food through its mouth and chews it, bites it or swallow it and gets into its stomach, it digests and then absorb the food. So that is holozoic. So what we have seen in nutrition, we have seen that nutrient, nutrition, modes of nutrition. Modes of nutrition: autotrophic for green plants, hetero, the rest all living organisms, heterotrophic mode of nutrition. And under that we have seen three: saprophytic, parasitic and holozoic. Now I'll change the page and show you in details about nutrition plant mode, how plants obtain its nutrition or how plants make its food. So let me change the page. Now look at this nutrition in plants, which we call photosynthesis. Green plants, we know, already discussed, that they make their own food from inorganic substances, carbon dioxide and water. So it is mentioned here, carbon dioxide and water. These are the two inorganic substances, and with the help of sunlight and chlorophyll. So the conditions necessary for photosynthesis, these are the four conditions. Sunlight is the energy which is required, trapped by the green pigment present in leaves, inside the cells, the tiny organelles which are called plastids, in which this chlorophyll is present. And the materials, the raw materials which are required: carbon dioxide, which is available from the air, 0.03 to 0.04% carbon dioxide is present in the air, that enters through the tiny opening in the leaves. You can see there are tiny openings. I will magnify and show you. They are called the guard cells. So these guard cells allow carbon dioxide to enter into the leaves, and the water rises up from the root. So you see the root here, it rises up through the tube like tissue which are called xylem vessels, and finally it comes to the leaves. Now if I magnify and show you, so these are the four conditions. Now I'll magnify and show you this part, the leaf. If it is magnified, then it will look something like this. So let me magnify here, a little magnify, bring this part. Yes, now here you see This is the leaf, thickness of the leaf magnified. The upper part, a waxy layer which is called cuticle, and then you get a single layer of epidermis, we call upper epidermis. This one, number 2, this is number 2, and one is cuticle, waxy layer. Then you find number 3, you see here that layer, a single layer, that is called mesophyll cells. Mesophyll, but in this particular case we call it palisade. We call it palisade. So mesophyll cell, this whole thing is mesophyll, this whole thing is mesophyll. Palisade number 3, and this one we call the spongy tissue. They all have, if I magnify here, let me magnify and show you. Magnify further, I think that will be, yes, I think here you can see, tiny plastids present inside the spongy cells, spongy tissue. Here I did not show, here I showed you. Many are there. How many are present in one cell? Almost more than 100. More than 100 plastids are present in one cell. So you can imagine in thousands and thousands of cells present inside a leaf, and each of the cell has more than 100 plastids present, in which chlorophyll is present. That is the site of photosynthesis. So I will again reduce the size, let me reduce. So this is the place where photosynthesis is taking place. So I reduce further and then discuss now. Look at this equation now. 6 CO2, I am discussing about this equation, photosynthesis. What is happening? 6 CO2, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is entering from the air through the stomata. 6 molecules of water, 6 H2O, and it is giving you glucose, carbohydrate, simple sugar, C6H12O6. I think it is, if I make it a little, magnify it, I think it will be clearer for you. So let me make it a little bigger here. Yes, glucose, and you see water, H2O, you see water. If I now reduce the size, you can see the whole equation. 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O, in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, glucose is produced, and I did not write this, here will be 6 H2O, 6 H2O here. 6 molecules of water will be, sorry, 6 molecules, cut it, 6 molecules of oxygen will be produced. That is a byproduct, oxygen. So oxygen is given out. Remember, that is oxygen. Okay, so I cancel this, 6 molecules of oxygen. Now you have understood the nutrition in plants. Let us now discuss some experiments to emphasize these points, that sunlight, chlorophyll, carbon dioxide, these are required. Without that, photosynthesis cannot happen. So I will change this page and show you few experiments before I end the class today. Now we will be discussing about these experiments, that without sunlight, this one number 1, without sunlight photosynthesis is not possible. Then we will discuss that without chlorophyll photosynthesis is not possible. And the third one, we will discuss that without carbon dioxide photosynthesis is not possible. Now to start the experiment, first we need to start with this one which I have given asterisk. What is that? You choose a fresh, healthy potted plant, and then you need to keep it in the darkness for almost 3 days. You have to keep in a dark room 3 days. Why 3 days? Means 3 into 24 hours, 72 hours. Why? The green leaves contains stored starch. So we need to utilize the starch which is already present in the leaves. It has to be used up. So 3 days if you keep it in the darkness, the starch will be broken to glucose and used up. That is called, this process is called de-starching, means removal of the starch. Then we are ready for the experiment. That means we are now ready for the experiment. Now take the potted plant in one of the leaf. You can do it like this. Take black paper as I have shown you here, and with the help of paper clips you can put 2 strips, one on this side, one that side, with paper clips. And then means after discharging, after this step you follow this step, and then put the paper clips, black papers, and then expose to sunlight for several hours. Whole day keep it outside in the sun. And then we will do starch test. I will explain you what exactly in the starch test we do. But before that, we will go to the second one. Here we will explain that without chlorophyll, photosynthesis is not possible. So we have to choose the correct plant, croton plant, croton or coleus plant. They are called variegated because you see the, look at the leaf. A part of the leaf is green and another part is non-green. So this is the right kind of plant to show, to do this experiment, that without chlorophyll photosynthesis is not possible. And the third one, you look here, we are trying to show that without carbon dioxide photosynthesis is not possible. So we have taken a solution inside. This is potassium hydroxide solution. It absorbs carbon dioxide. This potassium hydroxide solution absorbs carbon dioxide. So part of the leaf is inside, part of the leaf is outside. Now all these 3 experiments to start we have to do with this asterisk, that is the de-starching. After de-starching, you can take one potted plant for sunlight like this, number 1. Number 2, you can take one potted plant with croton or coleus, and this one. And number 3, you can put part of the leaf inside the flask where it is tightly fitted, and then there is potassium hydroxide solution to absorb the carbon dioxide here. So this part of the leaf is not getting carbon dioxide. So once this experiment 1, 2 and 3 all exposed to sunlight whole day, and then we will do the starch test. What is starch test? To show that starch is present where sunlight here is there, where it has green part, and where it is getting carbon dioxide here outside. The rest part will not show positive starch test. Now what is starch test? We have to understand. Starch test is, you have to pluck the leaf, you have to boil it in water, it will make it permeable, the cuticle will dissolve. Then we have to boil it in alcohol or spirit that removes the chlorophyll. When the chlorophyll is removed, then the leaf has no color. It becomes any change in color after that. When we put a chemical, that is iodine, the change in color to blue black will be easily visible. So we will first boil in water, then boil in alcohol, then again wash in hot water to make it soft. And then finally what we will, with the dropper, what we will put, which chemical? Iodine. What is the purpose of iodine? Where starch is present, like here in experiment 1, starch will be present here, green part, which is exposed to sunlight, it will show positive test of starch, it will show blue black. What about this black part? Nothing will happen. So no starch is produced here. In the second experiment, what about this one? The outer layer, you see the outer one, edge, where it is green here, it will show blue black with iodine. What about the third one? This outer part, this one, which is getting carbon dioxide, will be blue black. And what about this inner part? It will show no change. So These are the three experiments I have shown. With sunlight, without sunlight, photosynthesis is not possible. Without chlorophyll, photosynthesis is not possible. And without carbon dioxide, photosynthesis is not possible. And the first one is destarching, keeping it in the darkness for 3 days. So, this is all about the nutrition in plants. I will discuss about amoeba and human nutrition in human in my next lesson. So keep following, children. Bye bye for today.